Mankind has mapped the human genome, created an artificial heart. In 2021, we extracted oxygen from Martian carbon dioxide, the first time a natural resource has been extracted from another planet for human use. We built a 17-mile-long particle accelerator to smash particles into each other, particles smaller than the head of a needle. It seems there is nothing science can't answer, except one question. What is dirt? Science can't answer that question. More specifically, what is humus? What is humus? Humus is the part of soil that nourishes life. Humus is made up of very large molecules whose structure we cannot describe. Scientists don't know what it is. After 200 years of research, here is how Wikipedia describes humus. Humus is difficult to define because it is a very complex structure that is not fully understood. In fact, for over 100 years, we've used chemical extraction to research the humus, a method known since the 1930s to actually destroy the very molecules we're trying to identify. Humans have yet to identify what is in their dirt. Zero progress since the 1930s. Facing climate change, understanding how our soil works could help us remove carbon from the atmosphere. Yet, funding for soil science is practically non-existent. All of our efforts to define the organic matter in soil have been fruitless. But did you know? The tools to identify these molecules have existed for over a decade, but they're not being used. Why? Fully understanding our soil is well within our capabilities as a species, but our scientists are so deep in the forest that they can't see the trees. The truth about soil is not meant to be discovered. For you are dust, and dust you shall return, Genesis 3:19. We can understand humus without science by looking at the word itself. Humus is taken from the Latin word humus. In Latin, humus means soil, dirt. Adam is taken from the Hebrew word adamia. In Hebrew, adamia means soil, earth. The man called Adam was created when God formed man of the dust of the ground. Therefore, Adam was created from the soil, which is actually reflected in his name. Is the same not true for us? Does our name not reflect our origin? Humus, which means soil, earth, is the root word for human. And we are made from the earth and will return to the earth. The word human wouldn't exist without the word humus, meaning without the soil and the earth, we would not exist. The two are the same. By the time humus finally becomes humus, it is impervious to decomposition. It can easily last over 100, even 1,000 years, and there isn't a microbe on earth that can process it. That in itself is simply amazing. A molecule that cannot be destroyed, will not break down. Humus is thought to have originated from the slow decomposition of ancient trees that were compressed over time, that eventually became soil, and eventually became coal. But these large molecules that we have yet to identify in our soil, they weren't present in the trees at the time this process began, some 300 million years ago. They weren't present. The process of decomposition is one that breaks down molecules into smaller and smaller sizes, eventually just becoming minerals that nourish the earth. The fact that there are very large molecules present in the soil that has gone through decomposition means that there is a biological process responsible for the presence of these minerals, and that process has yet to be identified. We don't know how it works or what it is. And those that steer the scientific community, those that control the funding, they haven't led science towards figuring this out. Quite the contrary. Instead, they've steered them away from the truth, towards methods like chemical extraction that actually destroys these molecules. Why would the captains of funding, those responsible for funding the work and the equipment that science has access to, why wouldn't they want to figure out what these molecules are, how this process works? Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a secret. There is abundant evidence that shows previous civilizations have been essentially wiped off the face of the earth. There's evidence that buildings were turned to mountains, an entire race of giants gone. In the late 1800s, we found photos of massively built-out cities. with no people. Photos taken at high noon showing the cities empty. What happened to the people? In the beginning of this video, I mentioned several of humanity's extraordinary achievements in science. Curiosity has always been the driving force behind our progress, and we keep pushing boundaries. Our scientists are manipulating particles at the subatomic level, unraveling the mysteries of the universe. Let me repeat that. We are unraveling the mysteries of the universe. That makes the lack of progress in the science of our soil that much more confusing. I'd call it a red flag, a huge red flag. And the idea that it is being actively suppressed by those who control the funding is not that wild an assertion. Curiosity drives scientific endeavors, and I can tell you that our soil, the very thing that brings life to this planet, has been on the minds of scientists for centuries, paired with the fact that we have the equipment to identify the structure of humus and its molecules leaves no excuse that we haven't figured it out yet. The fact that funding is non-existent for the research of humus simply doesn't make sense. We're taking soil samples from Mars yet haven't figured out our own soil. Well, I'm going to share with you why there has been zero progress for nearly a century, despite having the tools to do so. I believe it is being actively suppressed. What I'm about to share with you will explain why your field has been neglected. You see, you aren't supposed to figure it out. Think about the idea that we may in fact be in a simulation, and we are aware of previous civilizations that are no longer with us. It's as if they've been completely wiped off the face of the earth. Now, think about the functionality of the simulation. When an era or an age is set to come to an end, how does the simulation prepare for the next era, the next age? What does it do with the inhabitants of the ending era? Well, could it be the ultimate circle of life? Could we, by means I couldn't explain to you, but I suspect some sort of transmutation takes place, and the inhabitants of the ending era could be returned to the earth, could all be turned to soil, ready to nourish the earth, provide the nutrients to feed the next inhabitants of the next era. Now, I'm not talking about decomposition, I'm talking about something else entirely. There are myths in our past that we can find clues in. The story of Lord Shiva and his always closed third eye. However, it is said when it opens, all will be turned to ash. There are even accounts in our past of the sky literally opening up. There are accounts of machines being visible in the sky. So I'd like you to imagine that the world as we know it has stopped. The sun hasn't been seen in 3 days, and the sky has been electrified. It's as if you've been inside of a plasma globe. It's going haywire. And then you hear a sound. You were inside playing Go Fish with your family, eating canned food. The power has been out for 3 days. There is no news, no information at all as to what's happening, yet you hear a sound. It's so loud that it draws everyone outside to see what it might be. You see everyone. Every neighbor on your block, man, woman, and child, old and young, everyone is outside. The sight is so mesmerizing, it has you transfixed, and one cannot describe what they are seeing, for it was beyond our imagination. And just like that, a blast of light, and that's it. This era, this age that you have been a part of, is no more. All the inhabitants have reached their end. Their souls and individual personalities are en route to whatever stop is next. Everyone has left their avatar behind, as each and every person has now been returned to the earth, ready to nourish the next civilization that will live on earth. completely blind to the nature of their reality. They build and create and play in parks and plant trees in their yards, having no knowledge that those that came before them had been turned. At the moment that blast of light erupted from the sky, everything alive was transformed, not to ash, but to soil, the humus, known as humanite. It is us. I'd like to share with you the evidence that I found that supports that idea. These vessels that we experience our world through, our bodies, they are not ours. They belong to the earth. And you are not your body. Our bodies serve crucial and necessary functions while we inhabit them and once we leave them.